Good evening, everyone. Good day. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. My name is Frank Myrskog. I'm a Family Services Director with Valley View Memorial Gardens right here in the Lower Mainland. And we're privileged at Valley View to serve hundreds of families every year. We do serve them at a difficult time. Many families who have lost a loved one, they turn to us, and we're honored to help them remember and celebrate the life of their loved one. But we also do a lot of work in the community, as I'm doing here today, informing families about the advantages and the wisdom of pre-planning ahead of time. The idea of recording that your thoughts and wishes, so that when eventually we all face the loss of someone we love, we can be better prepared. We can actually have our thoughts and wishes recorded for our family members, making it easier for them. So that's what I've dedicated my career to for the last little while. I've been doing this work now for over 2.5 years, and I've had the honor of working throughout all over the Lower Mainland, working here with Arbor Memorial. And that's what I like to do today, just to take some time and for all of us to just relax and look at the subject of planning. And I know many of you here, I know some of you very, very well, and I know some of you are planners. Many of you here have thoughtful foresight about this type of planning. And many of you have done a lot of planning already. Many of you may have a will. You may have gone through the experience of losing a loved one. So that's what I'd like to do today, is just connect with you and give you some information about our programs and pre-arrangement planning services. So let's begin. First of all, for those of you who aren't familiar with Arbor Memorial, we're a Canadian-owned family business, and we were founded in 1947, and we currently operate cemeteries and funeral homes, 40 cemeteries and about 90 funeral homes all across Canada. And we've been growing and throughout the years and expanding our service. And we've had the privilege of serving over 1 million Canadian families. Just over last year, we served 26,000 Canadian families. They turned to us in their time of need when they lost a loved one, and they chose us to provide services to celebrate the life of their loved ones. Our vision at Arbor, it really is that we put families first by creating end-of-life events that celebrate their loved ones in a way that is meaningful to them. So we're very experienced in this area of serving families in this way, and it would be an honor and a privilege to have you consider pre-arrangements so that we might serve your family as well. So let's talk a little bit about what I might know about you. And I know this is recorded, we're doing this virtually, but if I could just see a show of hands, and I can share some research about where Canadians are at, and where many of you may be at in your thought process. I know we're not doing this live, but if I could just see a show of hands about how many of you have had the experience personally of making cemetery or funeral arrangements for a family member or a friend. If I could just see your hands, please. Very good. In those experiences, I think many of us learned a lot, and I know that many of those experiences can be very, very vivid for some of you if they did involve loss. Across Canada, we've been conducting some research at Arbor just to find out where people are at with this planning process. And a recent survey that we did shows that about a third of us have initiated end-of-life planning conversations. Now that's probably similar or close to the amount of hands that were just up. So I think that many of us are kind of in the same boat with the research that we've conducted. And here's what we found. When those families who had initiated these types of planning discussions, about 57% said the conversation went pretty much as they expected. 24% felt that it was a tough conversation, and 19% found it less difficult than they'd imagined. So any thoughts about that? How many of you find that when you talk to someone about funeral planning like myself, or are just engaged in the conversation about planning for cemetery and funeral arrangements, in advance of need, how many of you felt that it was kind of a tough thing to talk about? Could I see a show of hands, please? That's perfectly normal. And how many of you thought the conversation wasn't so tough that it was a good thing to do, and that you felt it, and you were glad that you did? Could I see a show of hands for you as well? Okay, good. Let's take a look at what that situation really involves. First of all, if you think about your own planning process for a moment, think about whether you've made some planning steps and purchases that you just simply have to do to take care of your family, to build that wall of protection around them for life experiences that hopefully will never happen. For example, if you think about automobile insurance, and just think about that for a moment, you wouldn't be without it, and because you need to protect your family. Imagine if you were going on holidays, you're hopping in the car, you're heading off to the Okanagan. You've packed up the kids and everybody's ready to go, and you back out of the driveway and you think, oh, geez, I better grab the mail, uh, because it's something that you forgot to do, and you look at the mail and you notice that you've got a notification from your insurance company and that your insurance has lapsed. Um, what would you do? Would you just get in the car and drive off on your holidays, or you probably might go inside, hop online, and renew your insurance, or give your broker a call, so you can get that taken care of. We also think about the other types of insurance that we do, life insurance, and perhaps, or many of you probably have that as part of your planning. Um, but think about for the homeowners that are out there, fire and theft insurance. You probably wouldn't be without that type of protection. Probably not. And yet, the type of protection that we're talking about here is for things that may or may not ever happen. The type of planning we're talking about tonight, the type of planning here that I'm discussing with you is really a certainty, and not a maybe. This is something that we will all experience during our lifetimes. Eventually, we'll all experience the loss of a loved one. So the type of planning we're talking about really is a certainty, and it's something that we'll all experience with our loved ones one day. Now, if I can get all of you to think about this in a certain way, a little bit like a puzzle. Um, I'm sure many of you have done jigsaw puzzles, um, and I know for myself. I mean, I have a bit of a system for doing a puzzle. I mean, how many of you probably have their own system? And for myself, I like to look at all the edge pieces, perhaps the borders. Get started on that first. Um, you start assembling the borders, you get a picture of what's going on, and then you gradually start to work in all the colors and the portions of the picture until you've got those pieces together. And I know for me, I would be a little bit obsessive. I remember with my daughter, we'd be doing puzzles over the years, and when you start, you just keep on going until a lot of it's finished. So now, if you let's think about a jigsaw puzzle in terms of our planning. Let's call it our security puzzle. Now, if you think about the pieces in this way, as many of us do, we realize the importance of planning. Maybe like through some of the things we just talked about, the insurance coverage for our car, for your home, theft, health insurance, planning investments, planning for your homes, planning for the education of your children. All of these pieces in security or planning puzzle. Over the years, I know that many of us have spent a good amount of time putting those pieces together to make sure that your family, your children, and your loved ones are protected, and so that we can live our best lives possible. And now you think about, perhaps, as you can see here, the one last piece of the puzzle, this unfortunate piece that many people tend to leave out. They may have been very diligent in putting pieces together for all the other pieces. When, but what I find with families that I deal with is that each year's families just don't want to talk about that last piece. But what I can tell you from the experience that I have with families, that last piece, the cemetery and funeral planning piece, on that day of loss, there's nothing more important to a family member than wishing that they had the information and wishing they knew what mom or dad's decisions would have been. Um, but they're not here to discuss them, and they can never really be here to verify their wishes. And that unfortunately does cause problems for families, emotionally and sometimes financially as well. So here are some examples of the last piece uh, here that you can do with your pre-planning. Um, so let's talk about the planning for end-of-life decisions as an essential piece of your planning guide. Planning for end-of-life decisions is an essential piece, as we've just discovered. There are benefits that you will experience, and that I would suggest to you, first of all. Uh, Number one, you can discuss these options openly with your family in a relaxed environment, with clarity of mind, without someone who might be in hospital or someone who has an illness of a serious nature, or even in hospice. These are not the circumstances that you want to be faced with in having to make these decisions. Secondly, planning does provide a significant cost savings. By making these arrangements today and freezing the price and freezing the cost at today's prices, you will be locking yourself out of the inflation equation over the years. The increased cost of these cemetery and funeral decisions can be quite significant. The costs tend to double every 10 to 12 years. And typically we see 5 to 7% increase in these costs over year. So by acting now, putting these arrangements in place, you can save up to thousands of dollars, depending on when you put your plan into effect. Planning also gives you many choices to fit within your budget. Right now, you can decide what type of arrangements you'd like and what type of budget you'd like to allocate towards those arrangements. Oftentimes, when there's no planning and an immediate need does come unexpectedly, a loss in the family occurs, it can be very difficult to produce the funds. And oftentimes, families are asking one another for contributions and handling it together as a group. It can be very difficult in those situations. Knowing that the decisions are taken care of and the financial arrangements are secured, you're providing your family the most important benefit of all, and that's peace of mind. And that's really why I'm here. That's what we do for our families. We provide peace of mind through these arrangements. Here's the fact that we know, working with families, that there are really only two ways to make these arrangements. There's sort of a plan A and plan B. I guess you could say we don't really know the plan C. Unfortunately, plan B on the left involves many families who simply just don't want to have the discussion, or maybe they're uncomfortable about it. They just never get around to facing the details of their planning in this area. And that's, hey, that's human nature. Um, but oftentimes it results in a difficult situation being much more difficult, in that the decision is usually made at the funeral home or cemetery. And I can tell you, on the day or days following a loss, alone, without your spouse, without the benefit of their input and an understanding of exactly the right decisions of what they would have wanted, is done alone at an emotional time, a time of stress, a time of emotional uncertainty. We prefer to talk about Plan A, and that's what we're here to discuss this evening. Plan A is a pre-planning environment where you're together, you're calm, there's no emergencies facing you. You can take the time to discuss with someone like myself all the different arrangements that are available, all the options that you have, and we'll provide you our family security planning kit to which I'll discuss in a moment, at no obligation to you, so that you have a place to record and plan your thoughts and wishes. So my question, I suppose, to you this evening, as today, is what side of the ledger would you like to be on in terms of this planning process? We hope that you'll be on Plan A, on the right side of this picture, where we can make these arrangements in the most advantageous way possible, and in a way that's most beneficial for you and your family. Now, if we take a look at this slide, if we could just take a moment and in your minds just record or write down on a piece of paper how you would rank life's most stressful events. So if we just take a moment and you write down what you think, the order of which, how you think life's most stressful events would be. Here are the results from our national survey, and our national survey results show that number one, death of a spouse, not a big surprise, but may not be the same case for everyone. But this happens to be what our research shows. So I think some of you can see the importance of taking a look at this for your loved ones, for the benefit of those who would be responsible for making your final arrangements. Oftentimes, I ask families this question in our planning discussions. So I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to ask you guys, if something had happened to both of you, if you were here with your spouse or partner, and something had happened with you, the both of you yesterday, and you had passed, who would someone like me be speaking with today to help complete those final arrangements? Who might be that? Who might that be for you? Give it a moment, think about it, and then think about that person. Now let's talk about a process of planning that you can engage and complete this for that person, so that when something happens, they would be able to know exactly your wishes, your thoughts. They would be recorded, the location of important documents, what type of service, everything would be written down for you in our planning guide. And then it would be something that you provide for your family for the purpose of making everything as easy as possible in dealing with your loss. Now, wouldn't you agree that's probably the best scenario for them? So let's take a look at this 4-step process that we've come up with. This is our suggestion for all of you to make it as easy as possible to accomplish and have all these benefits for your family to take care of your loved ones. Step one is really to just consider your needs. At Arbor, step one is establishing your specific needs and where you stand in your knowledge of final arrangements. We'll explore that together, whether you've already started your plans. Maybe you have some ideas, but maybe you haven't completed all your thoughts, or you haven't really given it any thought at all, and you need to get all the facts just to help you navigate through the process. That's quite common as well. What we do is I pride myself on doing this for families, and just to take the time up front to learn about your family, learn about you, your thoughts and wishes, and what's important to you, what you're proud of in your life, and the interests and just the many things about you that we can discuss, and ensure that we get a thorough understanding of what makes your plan unique, so that we can plan a service that's meaningful to you, and then something that's meaningful to your family as well. And after that, we've done that, we've recorded that, and you've had a chance to discuss it. We can place all that information within the planning guide and move to step 2, which is to compile your personal information and many details in our kit that we've consulted with people, attorneys, estate planning attorneys, accountants, financial companies, government agencies. We've compiled everything into a very simple fill-in-the-blank format And you'll see just how easy it is to sit down and start to record this information. But we also recognize that planning can be overwhelming and emotional. So we do offer the opportunity to have a whereabouts for the location of important documents, so that whenever you're looking at your arrangements, that the person that you just thought about, they know exactly where to go. They'll know exactly where to find all the personal wishes that you've recorded, important numbers, contacts, in one essential resource. Uh, so not only for your loved ones who's taking care of the arrangements, but for your executor, so that they're prepared as well. Step three is we just want to sit down with you and explore your unique plan and something that's meaningful to you and your family. Once your needs have been determined, your documents have all been gathered together, all that information has been recorded, we can help you and your loved ones kind of gain a better understanding of the many options, whether it be traditional or contemporary, simple and affordable, whether your options uh, will ensure that your options reflect your taste, your culture, your budget, whether you begin the process with funeral or cemetery, whether you consider burial, cremation. We'll kind of talk to you and guide you based on your input and your preferences in selecting the plan that's just right for you. And finally, we need to meet to complete the final details. The final stage in your pre-planning process is to identify the value of your investment and to create a financing structure that's comfortable and then it suits your lifestyle. We meet in time to discuss the best payment schedule and options for your family. And many people aren't aware that we actually offer convenient budget terms over months and annual payment plans. And once plans are finalized for funeral or cemetery, we meet with you to ensure that the plan continues to meet your needs and to begin the four-step process for the other half of your arrangements. So there you have it, a very simple four-step process. I would encourage all of you today to realize the following advantages and that your family will know their wishes. I work in a situation almost every day where the phone rings and families just like you, it's families just like you, except with one exception. They've lost someone they love. That has happened. And they now have to make the decision and deal with it the best they can. By pre-planning ahead of time for that eventuality, for that reality, your family will know your wishes. And that makes a difference with the families that I serve. I know from talking and working with many of them that, and there's a great comfort and peace of mind in knowing that they're doing the right thing, following your wishes. This is what was preferred. This is what was recorded. It also reduces the legal and financial burdens to your loved ones. I've worked with families that have not had the benefit of pre-planning. They don't have the information. They don't know exactly what mom or dad would have wanted. And it's often difficult to bear these expenses without warning or advanced planning. And part of my reason for doing this today is by being able to offer you the estate planning kit so we can help you start that process. Folks, Facebook friends, thanks for taking the time today to let me explain what I do for families and how Arbor Memorial serves families. By planning ahead for all the right reasons, I'd like to show you how it's packaged. The Family Registry Guide comes in this series of booklets, and most families prefer a consultation where we sit down and catch up and get to spend about 20-30 minutes together, and I'll provide you with all the informational booklets, and we'll get you started on the four-step process. And I talk to families every day, every week, and provide this information. And most families are happy to get the information, and they find it very, very valuable. And they're happy they took the time to finish their planning by taking care of this last piece of their planning puzzle, by putting together all their thoughts and wishes, recording their information, and making a financial plan to guide their family. And really, what we believe that so strongly, that no family, and certainly not yours, should ever come through our doors on the worst day of their life, when they've lost someone they love, completely uninformed and unprepared for that experience. We don't believe that's the right way. We want to make sure that as many families as possible, and that your family has the opportunity to take care of this planning ahead. Um, we want them to receive our kit and to use our kit to guide their family and save, in some cases, thousands of dollars. I'd like you to please feel free to reach out to me and contact me so that we can set a time for me to bring you this information. Thank you very much.